So I just saw that President Biden has issued some pardons, and he pardoned people who Donald Trump has clearly planned to target for retribution. He specifically targeted Dr. Anthony Fauci. He pardoned the members of the January 6th committee who investigated Donald Trump's crimes. So Liz Cheney is now pardoned. Adam Kinzinger is now pardoned, and along with the rest of them. I think he pardons members of the Capitol Hill Police Department. I am of mixed thoughts about this. On the one hand, Joe Biden was in a very difficult position here because he knows that these people did nothing wrong and that they were going to be targeted for prosecution by an incoming authoritarian thug who is just hell-bent on revenge. And none of those people deserve to be prosecuted or even just investigated. Because even if they weren't ultimately prosecuted and indicted by grand juries, their lives would be made a living hell just by being under investigation. And by the way, pardons do not save a person, do not prevent a person from being investigated. They can still investigate them. They're just immune from prosecution, but they can still be investigated. Anyway, and I think, by the way, I think you'll see calls for that. I haven't read the exact language of the pardon, so I don't know what time frame these pardons cover. I don't know if these pardons were issued specifically with respect to, like, for example, the January 6th committee. If they were pardoned specifically and only with respect to the work they did on the January 6th committee, and if the Capitol Hill police officers were pardoned specifically for the events of January 6th, or whether they were given sort of a blanket pardon for some time period. And so the exact language of the pardon would dictate the scope of the immunity. And so I don't know to what degree they're immune from prosecution. So if they're just pardoned for their involvement in these specific activities, these people will still be targeted. You know, so if Liz Cheney is pardoned for her work on the January 6th committee, that's not going to prevent her from being targeted by investigation and maybe even prosecution. You know, and we know damn well that Donald Trump and the people who he will install in the DOJ have no problem filing charges, indicting someone, even though they know they didn't do anything wrong. And yes, you got to get through a grand jury, but that's not difficult. So I don't know if these pardons are really actually going to prevent any of these people from being investigated and prosecuted. So that's one thing. But I understand the difficult position Joe Biden was in. He does not, if he can prevent it, want to see the injustice of innocent people being investigated and prosecuted because of this small, petty, vindictive, authoritarian narcissist. So I understand that. And in that sense, to the extent that they are protected, these innocent people are protected, that's a good thing. On the other hand, I don't actually think it's a good thing for the country that they're pardoned. Because I know Joe Biden, in his statement pardoning these people, went out of his way to specifically say these pardons should not be taken to mean that these people did anything wrong. But that doesn't matter. Of course, Donald Trump and all of right-wing media will spin this as evidence of their crimes. And I don't think that's good, because now the fact of the pardon, because you don't pardon innocent people, right? And in the history of pardons, you read on pardons and you read on court rulings having to do with pardons. Implicit in a pardon is the idea that someone is guilty of a crime. And so that, of course, is what Donald Trump and his cult and all of right-wing media will now say, see, Donald Trump was illegally targeted. He did nothing wrong. The January 6th committee, all of them were engaged in a criminal conspiracy to frame Donald Trump. Anthony Fauci committed crime. I mean, this is what they'll say now. We all know this. And so I think while it may be good for these people, if in fact it does protect them from political prosecution, persecution, investigations, and indictments, it is good for them. But for the country, I don't think it's good, because it will give substance, rhetorical substance, to Donald Trump's lies that he was illegally targeted and this was all a witch hunt. And in fact, it was the people investigating Donald Trump who were actually the ones committing crimes, not Donald Trump himself. And for that reason, I don't think these pardons are a good idea. And I'm not the only one. Some of these people who received pardons today said they didn't want a pardon. I know very specifically that Adam Kinzinger said that he did not want a pardon, and I believe he said he wouldn't accept one. Now, just before I started recording this video, I checked his social media accounts to see if he had made any statement about this, and there wasn't anything posted this morning. So I don't know what he might say about this, but I know he has said, I don't want a pardon, he shouldn't give me a pardon, and I won't accept a pardon. I believe Liz Cheney has said something similar, although I'm not 100% sure on that. So it'll be interesting to see what the recipients of these pardons have to say about it. But I don't think it is good for the country, although it may be good for them. But then, as I say, it might be the worst of both worlds, really, because I do think it is bad for the country for the reasons I said. But I also, as I explained, think this may not actually protect them, because they will just still investigate them and try to charge them for alleged crimes that would not be covered by this pardon. So at the end of the day, these pardons may be the worst of both worlds. It gives substantive rhetorical substance to Donald Trump's lies, while actually not protecting these innocent people at all anyway. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. As I said, I have not read the specific language of the pardon, so I don't know exactly what it covers. But, I mean, I'm sure these pardons do not cover these people for like all time. And it certainly doesn't cover them for things in the future. You can't issue pardons for future conduct. You can only issue pardons for past conduct. So it certainly, no matter what the language of the pardon say, does not protect them going forward. So all of these people can still be investigated by Kash Patel's corrupt FBI, assuming he gets in, Pam Bondi's DOJ, at the behest of Donald Trump, for anything from today forward, from the moment the pardons were issued into the future. So it's not going to protect them, really. So I don't think it's a good thing. But anyway, I understand where Joe Biden's coming from. He's coming from a good place. He wants to do what he can to prevent innocent people from going through that and being the victim of this petty tyrant. So anyways, it's just so damn sickening that we're even having this discussion, that we're even here, that the American people, in their infinite stupidity, would put a man like this in the White House. God help us. Anyway, I'm going to have a lot to say, so please check back with my channel often. There's going to be a lot of content. Anyways, be well. Talk to you again soon.